Our compact, cream-colored vehicle huffed and puffed on the old dirt road. It had rained heavily, and the ground beneath us was slick and slippery. My parents, brother, and I were on an adventure, a day trip to the country. Now, the events of that day um, is a precious memory to me, and it'll always be close to my heart. Vividly, I remember my little brother being entertained with his small toy cars in the back seat. I was also in the back, but chose to stand on the hump in the middle of the floor. Being one to never want to miss anything, I wanted a clear view of the road in front. And speaking of the road, it was becoming dangerous due to the road conditions. My parents tried to stay calm, but were uneasy and tense, trying to make it through the deep ruts and muck. Apparently, it was springtime and it had rained because that road was not kind to our little car. Dad gripped the steering wheel tightly as he pressed his foot on the gas pedal to gain traction and momentum. Now, when I was a child, which is eons ago, the roads weren't like they are today. So this was probably one of the main roads back then. And if I remember correctly, we were in a little place trying to find some relatives or friends of Dad's that lived in New Ross, Nova Scotia. So those of you who are in Nova Scotia, you might remember that still to this day, I don't think there's much going on in New Ross. So back then, we were really out in, out in the boonies, I think, as they say. So without warning, as we were on this road and Dad was trying to gain traction, without warning, a sickening and bumpy thud sent me tumbling to the floor. After a shrill cry from Mom, we came to a sudden stop. Muddy water splashed up on the car windows. We were quiet and still while Dad got out to assess the situation. He discovered that the incident was not a small mishap. Our little car was solidly in the ditch and tipped to one side. Unable to open the passenger side doors, we climbed up the vinyl gray seats, and slid into Dad's arms. Once outside the car, our shoes absorbed gobs of guck as they got mired in the sludge. What a mess. I think we had a little cream-colored Vauxhall with gray vinyl seats. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Dad was a man of deep faith. I heard him utter a prayer to God for help. As he gazed up towards the heavens, he prayed. The tires on the passenger side were firmly wedged in the soft, slick dirt, hugged snugly by massive mounds of thick, heavy mud. Note to self, I must remember when I write these that I might want to read them someday. So I put all these words together, and yeah, reading them is a little tricky sometimes. While Dad was shaking his head and rubbing his chin, he cried aloud as he looked up to the heavens. He said, "Dear God, how are we going to get out of this?" Knowing he couldn't do anything to help us get out. Houses were few and far between. Fields, rocks, and trees silently witnessed our predicament, unable to offer assistance. Chirping birds were oblivious to our distress. So we stood by helplessly while Dad took another look at the dire straits we were in. Yep, our ride was hopelessly stuck in the middle of nowhere. What to do? What to do? What are we going to do? Suddenly, we heard a thunderous rumble, and it did sound like thunder. Unexpectedly, there appeared out of the blue the biggest truck I had ever seen. I recall looking up at the giant wheels, which seemed to tower above me. A man opened a large door and jumped down from the step on the side of the truck. "I see you need help," he exclaimed. Without another word, and without waiting for an answer, he grabbed a hefty piece of rope and attached to the bumper of our now dwarfed car. He climbed back into his gigantic rig, and with one jolt, we were back up on the road. "Wow," we observed with shock as we looked into the king-size muddy ruts where the tires had been mired and stuck. Suddenly, Dad swung his hands. Where did he go? Wow, I didn't even get a chance to thank him. How could he leave that fast? Now, we did not hear the rumbling of the truck leaving, nor did we see it driving away on the road from either direction. It had vanished into thin air. It simply disappeared without a trace, nowhere to be found. Now, we were not able to offer our gratefulness to that man. However, as we have recounted the story over the years, we were able to offer our thanks to God. And I still have chills today when I remember that day and what happened. I believe God sent an angel to our little family that day, an angel who could drive a big old rumbling truck. Do you believe in angels? I do, simply because angels are mentioned many times in the Bible. The most notable one is when an angel came to Mary, or to Joseph and to Mary, both of them at different times. Mary first, to tell her and to tell them both that Mary would deliver a child that would save his people from their sins, and he would be called Jesus. And angels are mentioned many other times in the Bible as well. And someday I think I'd like to do a study on angels of the Bible. It would be so interesting because today we seem to brush them aside and think they're no more than little cherubs or ornaments that we set up on a counter, or that they're just cute little cuddly babies with wings. But angels are so much more than that. That isn't really a true depiction of what angels are like. Psalm 91:11 says, He, meaning God, will order his angels to protect you wherever you go. Wow. God has angels to order to protect us. Wow. Well, if he had angels back in the Bible times, he has angels today because he hasn't changed. He is in charge of the whole universe, not just this little globe. And he's in charge of all the angels. Not all of them, but 2/3 of them. Anyway, and that's for another topic of discussion. But he does have many, 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 many angels that he can dispatch and send out to help us in our time of need. I hope you believe that, my friends. And when we see that our life is stuck in a ditch sometimes and we need help, we need to cry out and ask God to send help. And he will send it, not in the ways that we think, but he will send help. And in the bigger picture of life, society seems to have run itself into the ditch. Man does not seem to have the answer for the problems in the world today. We turn on the TV or the internet or look at our phones, however we get our news of what's going on in the world, and we hear and we see pictures of children being slaughtered with their teachers in their classroom for no reason. We see that there are wars going on. Crime is rampant. There are all kinds of things that cause fear to come into people's hearts. And just the other day, I was talking with a good friend, a dear friend of mine, and she was telling me about a situation um, with her and her family that causes fear to come into her heart. And we prayed that God would send angels to watch over them in the weeks and months to come and to keep them safe. And so that's what we're expecting. We expect God to answer our prayer in the way that he decides to. So, my friends, be encouraged today. I am encouraged because God has not forgotten us. He's not forgotten the world. We wonder sometimes why evil seems to be running rampant, but God is God and we're not. So we need to trust him and know that in the end, things will all work out for good for all concerned. So I could go on all day talking. So I'm going to just say goodbye for now. And when you get feeling like you're stuck in the ditch, cry out to God for help and he will send you help. It might be in the form of a man driving a big old rumbling, noisy truck. Be blessed today, my friends, and Lord willing, hopefully we will see you next Monday here. God bless.